It is not worth my while to manufacture in 3 countries only, but I can find it very worthwhile to make it for the whole world. I propose to remedy this defect by employing wax, tallow, or other grease, to lubricate and keep the piston tight. It next occurred to me. It now appeared that the cylinder of the model, being of brass, would conduct heat much better than the cast iron cylinders of larger engines. I can think of nothing else than this machine. In New Cummins engine, the piston is kept tight by water. I perceived that, in order to make the best use of steam, it was necessary, first, that the cylinder should be maintained always as hot as the steam which entered it, and, secondly, that when the steam was condensed, the water of which it was composed, and the injection itself, should be cooled down to 100 degrees, or lower, where that was possible. The means of accomplishing these points did not immediately present themselves, but early in 1765 it occurred to me, that if a communication were opened between a cylinder containing steam, and another vessel which was exhausted of air and other fluids, the steam, as an elastic fluid, would immediately rush into the empty vessel, and continue so to do until it had established an equilibrium, and if that vessel were kept very cool by an injection, or otherwise, more steam would continue to enter until the whole was condensed. When once the idea of the separate condensation was started, all these improvements followed as corollaries in quick succession, so that in the course of 1 or 2 days the invention was thus far complete in my mind, and I immediately set about an experiment to verify it practically. My responsibility is to follow the scriptures which call upon us to occupy the land until Jesus returns. They kill good trees to put out bad newspapers. I never use the words Democrats and Republicans. It's liberals and Americans. If the trouble from environmentalists cannot be solved in the jury box or at the ballot box, perhaps the cartridge box should be used. That is the delicate balance the Secretary of the Interior must have, to be steward for the natural resources for this generation as well as future generations. I do not know how many future generations we can count on before the Lord returns. Whatever it is, we have to manage with a skill to leave the resources needed for future generations. We will mine more, drill more, cut more timber. Everything Cheney's saying, everything the president's saying, they're saying exactly what we were saying 20 years ago, precisely. 20 years later, it sounds like they've just dusted off the old work. I was driven from my position as Interior Secretary, not because of my environmental record, but because of my Christian beliefs. That's the real struggle. Early American speeches, from Washington's to Patrick Henry's, have been de-theologized in history textbooks. No one has called it censorship.